So I've been thinking, because it's Father's Day, and my brother's here, and I'll be honest. I grew up in foster care. I was raised by my mom's teacher from school, and that was the best thing ever happened to me, because that couple led me to Jesus. And to be honest, if you're here today and you don't have an earthly father, you have a heavenly one that can come on down here, and he'll take care of you. Now, I learned a lot of stuff because he old school. Dad, old school. And he used to like say stuff I didn't even understand. I just didn't. Like he would look at me and he'd go, hey, put your hand on the plow, don't look back. I ain't gonna be a farmer. We live in a city. I ain't gonna put my hand on no plow. What he's saying is keep it straight, dude. Keep it straight. Don't look left or right. Keep your eye on the prize. I understand that. He said, make your bed. You gotta lie in it. I make my bed every day. He'll beat me if I didn't. Now, I know some of y'all like, beat you? What are you saying? That was back in the day when it was legal. Some of y'all don't understand. Look, some of you couldn't even clap right then. I'm just saying. I grew up old school. Y'all know that in Austin? You know the difference between old school and new school? Y'all, can I freeze the clock for a second? Let me make sure everybody with me today. There's two ways you raise your children. It's either old school or it's new school. Ain't nothing wrong with either one. Both are highly effective. Let me give you some scenarios just to help you out. Okay, let's say you at school, you get in trouble, and before you get home, they call home, talk to your mama. Did you hear that? Did you hear the uh-oh? They old school, all right? You get home and your mama says, they called, and your mom looks at you and says, I'm taking away your Xbox for a week. Ooh, look, there's a teenager like, oh no. That's new school. Old school, tomorrow, you go to school with a limp. Let's take it a little further, all right? Let's say you get in an argument with your mom, like, I hate you, I wish I was never born. Go in your room and slam the door. New school, mama comes like Dr. Phil. Baby, we got to talk. We can't let the sun go down on our anger. We got to work this out. Let your words verbalize it to me, baby. Just verbalize it. Old school, mama pull a Chuck Norris on the door. And tomorrow you go to school with a limp. Now look, I can tell already, some of you in the 10:30 service, you old school, but you pretend in public you new school. No, this is Austin, Texas. Y'all got to come out the closet up in here today. So I'm going to bring it one last time. So here it is. Because the mama says, wait till your daddy get home. Man, everybody know what's going on. It's Father's Day. Wait till your daddy get home. And so daddy comes in. He opens the door. And every daddy has the same thing. Old school daddy. Open the door, and it's the same speech. So today, to help you come to grips with who you are, I'm going to give you the first half of the old school daddy speech. And you're going to want to not shout out the second part. But it's going to come out anyway. Because it's how you were raised. Now, some of you right now in your mind's going, don't say nothing. Don't. It's going to come out. So your dad opens the door. You got to finish this. He looks at you and he goes, hey, I brought you into this world and... So as I got older, I have a son. His name's Dominic. And I'm like, I got to do the same thing. My dad gave me one more. When I got older, my dad looked at me and goes, don't cry over spilled milk. You still got the cow, bro. Now I get it. He said, but if you lose the cow, go ahead and cry. He just killed me with that stuff. So I decided I'm going to do that with my son. I'm going to come up with my own stuff. So one day I'm with my son. And I look at him and said, son, I got to give you a daddy speech. He said, what's that, Dad? I went, son, boys and girls are different. And he said, huh? I said, there are 4 ways boys and girls are different. I'm going to give them all 4 to you right now. If one girl got to go to the bathroom, 2 girls get to go with her. You ain't never seen a brother jump up in math class and go, ooh, I got to go. Hey, Steve, let's go pee-pee. Number 2, women cry pretty. They cry pretty. Men cry ugly. A brother cries like, it ain't good. So just go ahead and cry. Number 3, women can drive cars better than men. Go ahead, women can drive better than men. It's just the truth. It's even on Father's Day. And then I had to prove I was cool, so I broke the next part in a rap. I said, a woman got a brand new car. Hey, she really can't drive very far. She forgot to put gas in her car. Now brother gonna steal her car. And I said, a woman will wreck her car to save a cat running across the road. A man will wreck his car trying to kill that sucker running across the road. Number 4, you ever get up in the morning, get your toothbrush and toothpaste, go to put it in your mouth and the toothpaste falls off? Girls, what do? Wash it out of the sink, get more toothpaste, start over. Brothers, what do? Scoop it up, man. Who cares if your daddy shaved that morning? Scoop it up anyway. Go to school, got hair on your teeth, you nasty. That's what you are. Come on, I'm a good dad. Clap your hands, y'all, that's right. Then, I love it. Some of you are like, where's my pastor, all right? I told you he left town, so he can't be blamed for this. Then I decided, got to get serious. Dominic, got to get serious. So I said, Dominic, listen to me. Life is a roller coaster. Life is a roller coaster. I love roller coasters. They go so fast, makes my fat go backwards. I'm skinny again. No, y'all don't understand. Back in the day, they didn't have regulations on rides like that. They could do whatever they want. 120 miles an hour. It was in Ohio. This roller coaster was so fast, I went blind. My cheeks flew over my head. The whole ride, I kept hearing this. I'm like, what is that? And then I realized we're going so fast, my fat suffocating the girl sitting behind me, all right? No, so my son's like, what? I said, no. I was just her. What's it? What? Then when I was in the 9th grade, I got talked into getting on a roller coaster, went upside down. Reggie don't belong upside down. I go upside down, people get hurt. All my friends are like, Reggie. I said, okay, let's do it. Don't ever let people talk you into something you don't want to do. If you're a teenager, make your own decisions. Don't let nobody talk you into something. Nobody told me that, so I got on the ride. We went downhill around the curve. Halfway through the loop, upside down, the ride broke. Brakes grabbed. We stopped upside down. I'm hanging upside down. All my fat is rolling toward my head. I can hear it on the news. Fat man died on roller coaster. I'm trying to put, then I heard it got worse. The girl in front of me, she threw up and the wind was blowing in my direction. I can't duck, and if I could duck, my belly button would give me a hickey on my forehead. That ain't good. Some of you are looking at me like, what does that have to do with life? Everything. You know why? Some days you're on top of the hill and everything's great. Some days you're going downhill so fast you want to quit. So listen to me, my brother. Never give up on the ride of life, because they will fix the ride. The only question is, my sister, is will you be on the ride when they fix it? So the phrase of the day is never give up. Everybody say never give up. Touch your neighbor and say, all right now. Touch your other neighbor and say, here we go. I'm trying to start this sermon as civil as possible, but the brother in me is rising up. So first of all, let me tell you where we're going to go. If you got a Bible, go to the book of Psalms, chapter 23, verse number 1. Psalms 23, verse 1. My man on this Father's Day is King David. He's the one that wrote these words I'm about to read to you. If you can, if you want, the words are on the screen. Read it with me. The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. I like that. Everybody say, I lack nothing. You see, but you still got ing, so it should say, I lack nothing. Because if you still got ing, you're not po. But when you po, you ain't even got an R. That was as black as it's going to get today. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right path. Everybody say the right path. One more time, say right path. And here's why. For his name's sake. Here's my favorite one. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and staff, it comforts me. Verse 4 I love, because verse 4 in another version says, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. I had to Google that. I did it with Siri. I said, Siri, give me the definition of a shadow. And it says, a shadow is when a dark substance comes between light. And then it hit me. If David's right, and if it's the shadow, then Jesus is already there. So no matter if it's dark in your life today, no matter if you can't even see your hand in front of your face, no matter what the doctor has said, no matter what the prognosis has been, you got to understand it ain't nothing but a shadow. But it's a shadow because he's there. He's there. I love David. I love the way he writes this. And some of you are like, what does this have to do with Father's Day? Well, I think now's a good time for me to give you the title of my sermon. In order for you to get this, you just got to say it to your neighbor. Pick what neighbor you want, look them in the eye, and just simply say this: who's your daddy? Come on, turn to the person on the other side. If you say it again, say, who's your daddy? Come on, look at somebody you don't even know and say, who's your daddy? Hey, you got to go with me on this one. I'm just saying. I love the beginning of this. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. It's like me today. A lot of people look at pastors and preachers like me, and they're like, what's he going to tell me I need to do? I ain't telling you nothing. I don't even know y'all. I know them. I don't know y'all. But I will tell you what I did. I will tell you how I made it. I will tell you how I got through. And I'll say the same thing David said years ago. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He's mine. I can't make that choice for you. No one can. It's a decision you have to make for yourself on your own. As a parent, you could tell your kid, we're going to church. We used to go to church all the time. Daddy said, you ain't ready when mama ready, you going like you look. It's just the way it was. But they could not make me serve Jesus. It had to be my choice. 5.5 weeks ago, I laid on a surgeon table and they gave me a brand new left knee. And when I woke up, he looked at me and goes, when's your next speaking? I said, about 5 weeks. He went, well, you better make it happen. I did my part, you do yours. And I went, no problem. My nephew goes to church here. It's how I ended up speaking here today. We put this on the calendar before I even had knee surgery. But I knew I had this circled. I knew I had to get here. Doctor looked at me last Friday, a week ago, and he says, you did exactly what you were told to do. And that way, he says, I'm telling you, you had more scarring. It's an old injury. I didn't get it taken care of. It was bone on my left knee. So they put a brand new knee in. He says, I've never seen anybody progression like you so fast. With the scarring, you should still be on one of them walkers, but instead you barely are using a cane. He goes, keep doing what you're doing. And I said, nah, I didn't have a choice. I wanted to be here today. I wanted to be here this morning because I believe God has a word for us. Who's your daddy? That's a good title right there. Only a brother could pull something like that off. You got to know when you get with your family today and they go, what did the pastor preach on today? Just look and go, who's your daddy? It's going to be a good conversation. Oh, and put a little all right in there. Go ahead, lady. You go ahead. The Lord is my shepherd. Hey, you know what I'm going to ask you at the end, but right now I need to explain to you how this all happened. Before I go any further, you got to know David is the perfect Father's Day example because of where it all started with him. So you got to go all the way back to 1 Samuel. In 1 Samuel chapter 17 is when David faced Goliath. All y'all know that story. Everybody knows about it. But the verse is from verse 7, chapter 17, verse 55. It's a little bit different. A lot of people forget this. This is right when David decided to go. Now watch this. I'm going to read it to you. It says, as Saul watched David going out to meet the Philistine, he said to Abner, the commander of the army, Abner, whose son is that young man? Abner replied, as surely as you live, your majesty, I don't know. Look at verse 56. The king said, find out whose son this young man is. Now watch this. As soon as David returned from killing the Philistine, Abner took him and brought him to King Saul. And David stood holding the Philistine's head. Are y'all getting a picture of this? The dude, 15 years old, he's got like a 15, 20-pound head up in here. Because that dude was a giant. Giants don't have no little nugget. They have big old lumps, dude. They have like watermelon heads, all right? He got the head in his hand. He 15. He killed the giant. He saved Israel. And out of everything the king could say, look what he says. Whose son are you? In other words, he said, who's your daddy? Who's your daddy? Oh man, I like this. But let me back it up for you, all right? See, David comes across pretty arrogant here, 15-year-old boy going to face a giant, but you don't understand. It goes back before that, because his brothers were sent to fight in the fight. They were sent to fight in the fight. And when his dad said, all right, boys, y'all go fight, save our country, make me proud, get out. Hey, David, you go watch the sheep, because you too little. You too young. You too small. But while he was watching the sheep, one day a lion came out of the woods to try to kill the sheep. So David put himself between the lion and the sheep and ended up killing the lion to save the sheep. Then a bear came out. Obviously, he didn't watch CNN News. He would have known the lion already tried that once. And then he got jacked too, all right? So now they both dead, but he never told anybody. So what did David do? He killed the lion and the bear in his private life so that God could use him to kill a giant in the public eye. That's what church is for, by the way. It helps us prepare ourselves for what we get to do in the public eye. How did he know this was going to, how did he do that? How did he make it through? How did all this happen? He trusted God when he was young, and he ended up trusting God when he was older. So if we go back again to the very first thing, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. The Lord is my shepherd. He knew what a shepherd's job was. Why? Because he was a shepherd. So he knew that if he could stand between what was going to kill a sheep, he knew that God would do the same for him. If he's your daddy, no weapon formed against you will prosper. If he's your daddy, you can walk through the fire and not get burned. If he's your daddy, hey man, I'm going to tell you, there's another in the water holding back the sea. There's another in the fire standing next to me. And his name is Jesus. So now look at your neighbor, touch him and say, who's your daddy? Touch your other neighbor, say it one more time, say, who's your daddy? Are y'all listening to me this morning? Can you hear me? Can you hear what I'm saying? Is this mic on? You got to understand, it's very important. In the world that we're living in, this is so important. Because you have no idea what's coming your way. Can't even go to a grocery store thinking you're going to come out okay. Yet and still, this morning when I turned on the TV, first thing was the crime rate in America in the major cities. One city's 500% higher than it used to be. And the very next story was in Austin last night, 1 dead, 2 wounded through a gunfight. You don't know what's coming your way, so I'm just going to stay home. I'm just going to lock myself in my house. Because if the same God that stood back then is the same one that's here now. He's the same God. He's the same God. And he can take care of you. But the question is, who's your daddy? Who you trusting? Who you believing in? The Bible says in Romans chapter 10, it says, if you confess with your mouth that Jesus Christ is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. I love John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whosoever believes in him would not perish but have everlasting life. Right before Jesus died on the cross for the sin of the world, my favorite part is when he was in the garden. All of a sudden, he stopped in the garden, fell on his knees, looked up to heaven and said, Father, Father's Day. He said, if it's your will, let this cup pass. And I'm like, what in the world? And I remember when I was young, because in the book of Mark it's in there, in the book of Matthew it's in there. I'm like, what was in that cup that scared Jesus? Because nothing scared Jesus ever. Then I found out the word that was in that cup is drudge. What is drudge? Take anything a man can do that's wicked, vile, perverted, nasty. That's our word, nasty. You ever look at somebody and go, you nasty? Take whatever's nasty in the world, make it liquid, put it in the cup. And God the Father looked at his only son and he said, drink it. He literally said, drink it. He said, you cannot die for the sin of the world until you know it. And you lived a perfect life, but now it's time for you to take them to the cross. But his last phrase, not my will, but your will be done. Now, you guys get it extra because that part was not in the scripture. That part was not in my notes. That's a whole different sermon that just popped in my head. And I'm like, man, that works good. So I just laid it on you. So I don't know who you are in this room or what you've done or where you've been or what you did this morning or last night. But whatever nasty you have that's telling you in your mind that God doesn't love you, you have been deceived. Because if your nasty was so nasty that God can't love you, then the devil would have used it on God when Jesus was hanging on that tree. But guess what? The tomb is empty and he is alive because there's nothing that can separate you from the love of God. Touch your neighbor, say, who's your daddy? Come on, touch your other neighbor, say, who's your daddy? You got to understand that even in death, there's hope. And man, we've seen death, haven't we? On Friday, before I flew here yesterday, Friday afternoon, I was a part of a memorial service that turned into a high school graduation party. How does that happen? Well, the memorial service was for a 16-year-old girl who died of COVID on June 23rd of last year, who would have graduated from high school last week. And her parents waited a whole year until people can come together and remember their daughter. And they did it on Friday night. She made national news because she was the youngest at the time to die of COVID. She was only in high school. It was a sad, sad thing. She was from our church and our youth group. On Friday night, as I spoke, it hit me. And it hit me that this girl who had all these things, she had all these cancers and had to fight through all these diseases, but she was always smiling. They had high school kids get up and say she was always happy. Even when she didn't feel well, she'd go to the bathroom, throw up, come out and say, well, there's breakfast. I guess I can eat lunch now. And every day she was always smiling, always smiling. I couldn't understand. I couldn't understand why. I couldn't understand why. And the very last kid that spoke after I got done. And the kid got up and he goes, I get it now. I know why she was happy. It had nothing to do with her. It had everything to do with who she believed in. Somebody touch your neighbor and say, who's your daddy? Now look at me. Everybody look at me. Home in for a second because that bell went off in my head and I got to go, all right, because I'm hungry. I think I'm going to do chicken fajitas. It's off the chain, bro. If I lived here, I'd weigh like 900 pounds. Because between pampasitas and barbecue and steak, I love Texas. I get to come back next month. I'm in Dallas next month. I'm emceeing a thing called Promise Keepers. It's their first event back in 5 years, and it's at AT&T Stadium, and they have already 60,000 men registered. And God's going to move. Amen? Amen. You ready? Walk with me on this. The one thing I don't understand, and I cannot answer, is why stuff happens. Everybody looks to guys like me when something bad happens, and they go, why? I don't know. But I know this, when we get to the other side, we will understand. It'll be like a light bulb going off. And we go, why did I worry about that? We will understand. Yeah. But the way I look at it is like this. Right now, even in my life, one of my best friends in the whole wide world, he's a pastor in Miami. We go see each other. He's like, I can't take these people. I'm on my way. I said, come on. We literally, one time, he was driving through town, and he had to go to the bathroom. And he goes, are you home? I said, no. Is Michelle home? I said, I don't think so. He goes, tell her to open the door with her phone. I got to go to the bathroom now. I'm 3 blocks away. He goes to the bathroom, leaves and says, tell her I locked the door. Love you guys. See you later. That's your friend right there, all right? He just died. He was putting his shoes on. And so I'm like, they go, hey, Kevin died. And I went, shut up. So I literally pull out my phone and call his number. His voice comes on, hey, I'm busy right now. Please leave a message. And when I hung up, his phone rang. I went, see? I said, hey, it's Reggie. And his wife goes, I'm sorry. I've seen death a lot. I understand it. But every now and then, it could rock a brother like me. And it did. So I said a statement. It looks like death has won. I remember standing, my foster care parents told you I grew up in foster care. I buried both of them. I spoke at both their funerals. Brothers, I've spoke at their funerals. And it looks like death has won. If we do even the Bible, we go all the way back to the beginning, to the first family, when Cain kills Abel. It looks like death has won. How about Noah? He survives the flood. He builds the boat. Everything's good. They got a new life. Everything good. And he dies. Isaiah, the eagle-eyed prophet who could see thousands of miles in years, but yet and still he died. There's a guy named Habakkuk who said he was a prophet to Israel. He walked with God, talked with God, but yet and still he died. Throughout the Bible, great men and women, they lived great lives, but still they all died. But the Bible keeps saying over and over and over, love was greater than death. Love is greater than that. Like 2 prize fighters fighting over us. But every time they fight, death wins. And some of you today, it looks like that. The hurt that you're going through, the sorrow, the regret, the pain, the shame. But I stand here today to tell you that over 2,000 years ago, love rolled in the ring. And Jesus rolled up his sleeves and he says, wait a minute, death. You bullied people too long and I want to set the record straight right here, right now. And love, Jesus, and death fought all over Jerusalem. Onto a cross, they fought all the way to the grave. And then death jumped up and said, ha! I did it to you, and I did it to the rest of them. And on that Friday night, he started a party, death did. It wasn't like a 2-hour or 3-hour party. It was one of them University of Texas parties. Lasts all weekend. And if you know what I'm talking about, look straight ahead, you in church. All day Saturday night. And it looked like death had won. But how many of you know that there's another day after Saturday? Hey, there's a reason why God put Saturday after Friday and before Sunday. Because when Jesus died for the sin of the world, he spoke on Friday. He said, I drink the drudge. I'll die for the sins of the world. God spoke on Friday when he made the sun disappear. He ripped the curtain in two. Matter of fact, everyone who was dead in the city when Jesus died, everyone in the grave came back to life again. That's the power right there. How'd you like to be the dude who married his best friend's wife? Lifetime channel ain't got nothing on that right there. That's another, let's just go back, all right? But all of a sudden, here's Jesus, Sunday morning. And that's when God, Abba, Father, that's when our dad stepped in the ring and he said, all right, I've had enough. You done. He says, I'm about to exhale and my son is going to inhale. And I'm taking your keys to death, hell, and the grave, and there ain't nothing you could do about it. And he did. And that's why on Father's Day, we have hope in Jesus. Who's your daddy? Who's your hope? Let's pray. Jesus, I pray for every man, woman, boy, and girl here. God, you know who we are. God, you know what we've gone through. You know everything about us. I pray right now, Jesus, that you would absolutely touch the heart of your people today. God, I don't know where they came from. I don't know what they're going through. I don't know what they've seen. I don't know the struggles in this room, but you do. You do. You knew when they woke up. God, somebody woke up before the sun even came up this morning, and they said, God, if you care about me, let me know. God, let that person know right now that I'm not a speaker. I'm the biggest, blackest Hallmark greeting card from heaven they'd ever seen in their life. Saying that Jesus loves you and he wants to be your daddy. Do you know him today? Everybody look at me for a second. If I go all the way back to the very beginning of the sermon, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. I got the greatest illustration, and then I'm going to ask you, if you're a sinner, to give your life to Jesus today. I got to do it quick because my right leg is numb. I've been leaning on it too much. But you ready? I had a 14-day tour in Africa. I speak in public schools. I'm not going to go into that. I speak to 1.5 million public school students every year, face to face. I've done teachers' conferences. I was here in Austin about a year and a half ago. There was ladies in the first service that were from that. And I do sinners. I'm not able to say Jesus in public schools, but every school loves me. I do kindergarten through college, and it's cool. I think I should come to Austin and do a high school tour and go through your schools and give hope, because I think that works. I think it works. And here's the cool part. Now, don't tell them I said this, but here's the cool part. I don't have to say Jesus in a public school because the love goes with me. Jesus don't need me to say his name to show up. The brother going to show up. Not only that, kids Google. Kids use YouTube. Yeah. And I got stuff on YouTube that get you saved. Come on. So I just go the back door, all right? I don't need to know who got saved. It don't matter. I just need to be Jesus at that moment. Like this moment. So I'm in Africa, 10 days in a row. We did schools, so many kids. But I had to be there 14, and there was no schools the last 2 days. So I said, I'm gonna get a plane, I'm going home. I'd rather be home than anywhere. And my guide, he said, Reggie, no, we got a surprise for you tomorrow and the next day. We're going on a safari. And I said, who? I'm from Tennessee, all right? And they said, no, safari. He says, we have the 5 greatest beasts that roam the world. And they all live in Africa. And we're going to go see them in their natural habitat. And I said, well, how are we doing that? He said, we got Jeeps. They have no doors, no roof, no windows. And we're going to take you to where they live. Y'all do know that's sushi. And I'm the fish, all right? It's just not good. It's just, I said, no. And they go, no, you're going to love it. And the whole thing I did. I loved it. But the craziest thing was the very last day. We're going back to the camp, and the sun is setting, and all of a sudden we come over a hill, and there's 2,000 sheep in front of the Jeep. We stop, and he goes, it's time to water. They got to go down to that lake. They got to go by. It won't take long. He says, I know these shepherds. A couple of shepherds came. Then I heard, it was like bad. It was loud, y'all. Sheep are so loud. And they were running down to the water. It was like kindergartners at playtime, all right? There ended up being about 7,500 sheep, 4 shepherds. And they're all like standing by the Jeep, and I'm meeting these guys. And it hit me, and I go, bro, somebody gonna lose a sheep in this thing. When you guys go home, how do you not lose sheep? And he goes, oh, no, Reggie, give him 5 more minutes and we'll show you. And the guy goes, you remember Psalms 23? What David said, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He goes, we want to show you why he wrote that. So 5 minutes later, one of the shepherds go, I got to go. My wife made dinner. He goes, all right, Freddie, you go first. And Freddie goes, hey! 2,000 sheep went back and started walking up the hill toward Freddie. And another one whistled, another 2,500 sheep go with him. The third one whistled. Fourth one whistled. Every sheep knew the shepherd's voice. How do you get through the hard times? How do you get through the suffering? How do you get through the shame? How do you get through the past that you wish you had never had happen? Who's your daddy? Who's your daddy? Okay? Who's your daddy? Cast all your cares upon me, for I care for you. Who's your daddy? If he's not, this is your moment. Every head bowed, every eye closed, no one looking around. I'm going to say a prayer with everybody in this room. The church calls every Christian a saint. But this is where you need to know. Listen to me. Every saint has a past, and every sinner needs a future. And this is where that happens right here, right now. Romans 10:9. If you declare with your mouth that Jesus Christ is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. Listen, do you know him today? With the hurt and the pain and the struggles you're going through, do you know him today? With the uncertainty of your future, do you know him today? How can one move change everything? That's the way God set it up. He said, you choose. In Deuteronomy, he says, you choose life or death, curses or blessings. He said, choose life.